The space near the Kepler sector had been quiet for 300 years. Three great powers controlled this part of the galaxy, and they all knew their place. The Zephyrians floated in their crystal ships, their bodies made of pure energy contained in transparent shells. The Hive Collective moved in perfect formation, thousands of insect-like creatures thinking as one mind. The Ethereals drifted through space like living clouds, their psychic powers reaching across vast distances. Today was supposed to be another routine patrol. Commander Zekthos of the Zephyrian Third Fleet watched his energy readings as his ship moved through the asteroid field. Behind him, Captain Vrix High monitored the border sensors. Everything looked normal. "Oh, Commander," called Sensor Officer Nalsek from his crystal console. "I am detecting something strange." Zekthos turned his glowing form toward the sensor station. "What kind of strange?" "An energy signature that should not exist. It is building." Across the sector, similar conversations happened on hive ships and ethereal vessels. The insects clicked their mandibles in confusion. The cloud beings pulsed with concern. Something was coming, and none of them knew what it was. The space in front of them began to bend. Reality twisted like heated metal. The three fleets stopped moving and pointed their weapons toward the disturbance. Energy readings climbed higher and higher until the instruments screamed warnings. Then it appeared. The ship was like nothing they had ever seen. It was not beautiful like a Zephyrian crystal ship. It was not organic like a hive vessel. It was not flowing like an ethereal cloud form. This ship was hard angles and flat surfaces. It was gray metal and straight lines. It looked like it was built for one purpose only: war. The alien vessel was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long. Weapon ports dotted its hull like angry eyes. Shield generators hummed with power that made the sensors ache. It hung in space like a sleeping predator, silent and deadly. "By the crystal core," whispered Vrix High. "What is that thing?" The three fleets surrounded the strange ship. Hundreds of vessels from each fleet took positions in a wide circle. The Zephyrians charged their energy cannons. The hive ships released clouds of fighter drones. The Ethereals gathered their psychic powers for a mental assault. Then the alien ship spoke. The message came on all frequencies at once. The translation computers struggled with the unknown language, but after a few moments, the words became clear. "This is the U.S. retribution of the Terran Republic. We are not here by choice, but we are here. Identify yourselves." Admiral Sarah Kerrigan stood on the bridge of her ship, looking at the displays that showed hundreds of alien vessels pointing weapons at her. This was not how she had planned to spend her Tuesday. The experimental jump drive had been supposed to take them to the outer rim for testing. Instead, it had thrown them across the galaxy into what looked like a war zone. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Torres from the communications station, "we are receiving messages from 3 different groups. They all want us to surrender." "Of course they do," Kerrigan said. She was a tall woman with gray hair and hard eyes. She had spent 30 years in the Terran Navy, and she had never surrendered to anyone. "What are options, Commander Wells?" Her executive officer checked his displays. "We have full power, all weapons ready, shields at maximum. But we are outnumbered about 300 to 1. 300 to 1, Kerrigan repeated. "Well, we have been in worse spots. When?" asked Wells. "Give me a minute to think of one." The Zephyrian commander opened the channel. His crystalline form appeared on the main screen, glowing with energy. "Unknown vessel, you will power down your weapons and submit to inspection. We are the Zephyrian Confederation, and this is our space." Before Kerrigan could respond, another message came through. This time, it was from a hive ship. The insect tapped and clicked and hissed, and the translator turned it into words. "Alien ship, you are in collective territory. Lower your defenses and prepare for assimilation into the Great Hive." The third message came from an ethereal vessel. The cloud being spoke directly into their minds, its psychic voice echoing in their heads. Newcomers, you must submit to mental examination. We will determine if you are suitable for this sector. Kerrigan looked around her bridge. Her crew was young, mostly from Earth and Mars colonies. They had never seen aliens before, but they were not afraid. They were curious. "Ma'am," said Ensign Park from the science station, "I am reading some interesting things about these ships." "Go ahead." "The crystal ships use energy weapons, but their power systems are not very efficient. The bug ships have good coordination, but their individual vessels are weak. The cloud ships seem to have mental powers, but their physical technology is behind ours." "Interesting," Kerrigan said. "And they all seem to think this is their space." "Yes, ma'am. From what I can tell, they have been fighting over this sector for centuries." The three alien fleets grew impatient. Energy readings spiked as weapons charged. The hive drones moved closer. The ethereals gathered their mental powers. Kerrigan made her decision. "Open a channel to all three fleets." "Channel open, ma'am." "This is Admiral Kerrigan of the Terran Republic. We did not come here to fight, and we have no interest in your territorial disputes. We ask only for safe passage to continue our journey." The Zephyrian commander's crystal form pulsed with anger. "You will submit to our authority or face the consequences." "I see," Kerrigan said calmly. "Commander Wells, what did our deep scans tell us about their ship designs?" Wells smiled. "Their weapons are 3 generations behind ours. Their shields are weak. Their hull materials are inferior. Should I continue?" "No, that will do." Kerrigan turned back to the screen. "This is your final warning. We wish to leave in peace. Do not force us to demonstrate why that would be wise." The Zephyrian commander made what might have been a laugh. "1 ship against 3 fleets? You are either brave or insane. Lieutenant Torres, please send our response." Torres grinned and pressed a button. Across the sector, every alien ship received the same message at the same time. It was not words. It was a complete technical readout of human weapons technology, shield systems, and tactical capabilities. The data was compressed and encrypted in ways that stretched alien computers to their limits, just to decode it. When they finally understood what they were reading, the 3 fleets grew very quiet. "Now," Admiral Kerrigan said into the silence, "shall we discuss this like civilized beings?" The data package that the humans had sent was like nothing the aliens had ever seen. It took their best computers hours to decode, and when they did, the results were troubling. On the Zephyrian flagship, Science Officer Nalsec stared at his readings in disbelief. "Commander, these energy signatures are impossible. No single ship should be able to generate this much power." Commander Zekthos floated closer to the display. "Are you certain the data is accurate?" "I have checked it 6 times. If these readings are true, their main weapons could destroy our entire fleet in minutes." On the Hive mothership, the collective mind buzzed with confusion. The data showed tactical thinking that rivaled their own, but without the benefit of shared consciousness. How could individuals coordinate so perfectly without being connected? The ethereals found the mental scan results most disturbing of all. When they had tried to touch the human minds, they had found not the calm, organized thoughts they expected, but chaotic storms of creativity and aggression that actually hurt to contact. Admiral Kerrigan waited 20 minutes before opening communications again. She had learned that aliens, like humans, needed time to process shocking information. "This is Admiral Kerrigan. Have you had sufficient time to review our capabilities?" The Zephyrian commander was the first to respond. "Your technology is impressive, but we are not convinced. Data can be falsified." "That is true," Kerrigan agreed. "Would you prefer a demonstration?" "You would attack us?" The crystal being's voice carried surprise. Only if you force us to. We prefer diplomacy. The hive captain clicked and hissed through the translator. The collective does not fear your single ship. We have survived by adapting and overwhelming our enemies. The ethereal spoke directly into their minds again. Your thoughts are strange to us, humans. We must understand what you are before we can trust you. Kerrigan looked at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for orders. She had trained them well, but this was not a situation that any textbook had prepared them for. Very well, she said. Each of your species may attempt one test of our capabilities. Choose wisely. The three fleets pulled back to give themselves more room. Admiral Kerrigan used the time to study her new neighbors. Her ship's sensors were far more advanced than anything the aliens possessed, and the results painted an interesting picture. Commander Wells, she said quietly, what have we learned? Wells consulted his tablet. The Zephyrians are highly logical but inflexible. They've been using the same tactics for centuries. The hive ships coordinate perfectly, but they cannot adapt when their plans fail. The ethereals rely too much on their psychic powers and not enough on technology. Interesting. And their weapons? Powerful but predictable. The Zephyrians use energy beams that require time to charge. The hive uses swarm attacks that follow mathematical patterns. The ethereals try to disable enemies mentally before attacking physically, so they all have weaknesses. Yes, ma'am. But they also have centuries of experience fighting each other. They know how to exploit each other's weaknesses. But they do not know how to fight us. The Zephyrians move first. Commander Zekthos brought his flagship closer to the human vessel and activated his most powerful scanning beam. The energy lance struck the human ship's shields and began to drain power in the traditional Zephyrian manner. The human response surprised everyone. Instead of trying to break the energy drain, they simply increased their power output to compensate. The Zephyrian beam, designed to overwhelm any ship's power systems, had no effect at all. Impressive, Zekthos admitted. But scanning is not the only thing this beam can do. He changed the energy frequency, turning the scanning beam into a weapon. The focused energy should have overloaded the human shields and crippled their ship. Instead, the beam simply bounced off like light reflecting from a mirror. The Hive Collective tried next. Thousands of small fighter drones poured out of their ships and swarmed toward the human vessel. The drones moved in perfect formation. Their attack pattern calculated to overwhelm any defense system. The human point defense. Weapons activated. What followed was not a battle but a demonstration. The human weapons tracked and destroyed targets faster than the alien sensors could follow. Lasers, missiles, and projectile weapons created a wall of fire around their ship. In less than 30 seconds, every single hive drone was destroyed. The collective mind reeled in shock. Never before had their swarm tactics been so completely defeated. The humans had not even used their main weapons. The ethereals tried a different approach. Instead of physical attack, they reached out with their psychic powers to touch the human minds. They had done this successfully with thousands of species over the millennia. Mental contact usually led to understanding, and understanding led to peaceful resolution. The ethereal probe touched Admiral Kerrigan's mind and recoiled in pain. The human consciousness was nothing like what they expected. Where other species had organized, predictable thoughts, humans had chaos. Their minds jumped from idea to idea without logic. They thought about multiple things at once. They planned for situations that might never happen. They worried about problems that did not exist while ignoring obvious dangers. The ethereal tried to go deeper, to find the calm center that all intelligent species possessed. Instead, they found memories of warfare that spanned millennia. Humans had been fighting since they learned to pick up sticks. They had turned warfare into an art form. Their entire history was written in blood and victory. The ethereal withdrew quickly, their psychic form shuddering with distress. We cannot read them. The cloud being reported to the other fleets. Their minds are protected by chaos itself. Admiral Kerrigan had felt the psychic probe, of course. All humans had natural resistance to mental intrusion, a side effect of living on a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years. But she decided that the aliens had learned enough for now. "Have your tests satisfied your curiosity?" she asked. The three fleet commanders looked at each other across their communication channels. For the first time in centuries, they found themselves agreeing on something. This single human ship was more dangerous than any of their individual fleets. But Commander HFY of the Zephyrian Second Fleet was young and proud. He had not been chosen for the test, and he wanted to prove that humans were not as powerful as they seemed. "Admiral Kerrigan," he said, opening his own channel. "Your defenses are strong, but offense is different than defense. Can you attack as well as you protect?" Kerrigan's expression did not change. "Commander HFY, I strongly advise against testing that theory. One ship cannot threaten an entire fleet," HFY declared. He turned to his own vessels. "All ships, prepare to engage. Target their weapons and engines only. We will disable them and take them prisoner." "Commander," Admiral Kerrigan said in a voice that had ordered men into battle across a dozen star systems, "you are making a mistake. We shall see." 20 Zephyrian ships opened fire at once. Energy beams lanced across space toward the human vessel. It should have been enough to overwhelm any defense. The humans had been ready for this. Possibility. The U.'s retribution moved. Not the slow, ponderous movement of a massive warship, but quick, precise adjustments that made the alien weapons miss by meters. Return fire came immediately. The human weapons were not like anything the aliens had seen. They did not rely on energy beams or swarm tactics or psychic powers. They used kinetic projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds, guided missiles with their own computer brains, and laser systems that could adjust their frequency in real time. But it was not the weapons that shocked the alien observers. It was how the humans used them. Every shot was placed with surgical precision. The human weapons did not try to destroy the Zephyrian ships. Instead, they targeted specific systems: weapons, engines, life support, communications. In 4 minutes, 20 Zephyrian ships hung dead in space, their crews alive, but completely helpless. Commander HFY's flagship was the last to be disabled. His main weapon systems were destroyed with a single shot. His engines were carefully severed from his power systems. His shields collapsed when the generators were precisely targeted. The silence that followed was complete. Commander HFY, Admiral Kerrigan said calmly, "This is why we prefer diplomacy." News of the encounter spread across the three fleets like wildfire. Within hours, every intelligence officer, military analyst, and strategic planner in the sector was studying the battle recordings. What they found disturbed them more than any direct threat could. On the Hive mothership, the collective consciousness gathered its greatest military minds into conference. The Queen Voice herself joined the discussion. Her ancient wisdom focused on this new problem. "Show us the battle again," commanded the Queen Voice through her speaker-drone. The tactical display lit up with recordings from 20 different angles. The analysts watched in fascination as the human ship moved through space. Where Hive vessels followed predetermined flight patterns based on mathematical calculations, the human ship seemed to dance. It moved in ways that made no sense according to their understanding of combat. "They fight as individuals," observed Battlemind Crystal. "But they coordinate like we do." "Impossible," clicked War Leader Vexkid. "Individual minds cannot achieve perfect coordination without connection to the collective." "Then explain what we see." The Hive analysts spent hours examining the human tactical responses. Every movement was perfectly timed. Every weapon fired at exactly the right moment. The crew worked together with precision that rivaled their own collective consciousness. But somehow they did it while remaining separate individuals. It is as if they have achieved collective mind without losing individual thought, the Queen voice finally said. Such a thing should not be possible. The Zephyrians had their own concerns. In their crystal command chambers, the greatest strategic minds of their civilization tried to understand what they had witnessed. Their energy management is completely wrong, declared Science Commander Nalvox, his crystalline form pulsing with confusion. No ship should be able to maintain such power levels. Yet the readings are clear, replied War Commander Zekmain. They somehow generate more energy than they consume. Show me their weapon patterns again. The battle display replayed the precise destruction of Commander Vrix High's fleet. The Zephyrian analysts had expected to see energy weapons like their own, or perhaps kinetic weapons like the primitive species sometimes used. What they saw instead confused them completely. They use everything, observed Tactical Officer Sekare. Energy, kinetic, guided, unguided, short range, long range. They have no consistent strategy. That is not lack of strategy, Zekmain corrected. That is adaptation. They choose the right weapon for each target. But how do they choose so quickly? Our computers need several seconds to analyze targets and select appropriate responses. Their computers are faster than ours. Or, Nalvox said quietly, their minds are. The Ethereals face the most disturbing discovery of all. Their greatest psychic masters gathered in the meditation chambers of their cloud ships to discuss what they had learned from touching human consciousness. Describe it again, requested Elder Mind. Velthara. Her psychic presence calm, and ancient mind touch as if a loose form flickered with distress. It is like touching a storm elder. Their thoughts have no pattern, no logic. They think of many things at once. All species have scattered thoughts occasionally. Not like this. Humans think of the past, present, and future simultaneously. They remember battles that happened years ago, while planning battles that may never happen. They worry about problems that do not exist while ignoring obvious dangers. That sounds like madness. It should be madness. But somehow they make it work. Their chaos creates solutions that logic alone cannot find. Elder Main Velthara considered this. In her 3,000 years of life, she had touched the minds of hundreds of species. All of them had been understandable, even if they were alien. The humans were the first species whose thoughts actively resisted comprehension. Show me the memory of their battle techniques. Cephalou shared the psychic impression of the human tactics. The Ethereals watched in amazement as human strategy unfolded. Where other species followed careful plans, humans seemed to improvise constantly. They adapted their tactics moment by moment, responding to changes faster than should be possible. They do not think like us, Velthara concluded. They do not think like anyone. While the aliens struggled to understand humanity, Admiral Kerrigan faced her own challenges. Her ship's sensors had been analyzing the local star systems, and the news was troubling. Commander Wells, she called to her executive officer. What do we know about our situation? Wells consulted his reports. We are approximately 40,000 light years from Earth, Admiral. Our exotic matter reserves will last for 6 months of normal operations, or 2 months if we engage in heavy combat. Can we make it home? Not with current technology. The experimental drive that brought us here was destroyed in the transition. We would need to completely rebuild it, and we do not have the materials. So we are stuck here. Yes, ma'am. But there may be opportunities. This sector contains several habitable worlds and abundant resources. The 3 alien powers seem to control most of the territory, but they are constantly fighting each other. Interesting. What about their technology? Science Officer Park looked up from her station. Their individual technologies are inferior to ours, Admiral, but they each have advantages. The Zephyrians have mastered energy manipulation in ways we have not. The Hive Collective has biological engineering that could be useful. The Ethereals have psychic abilities that our science cannot explain, but they waste their potential fighting each other, Wells added. None of them cooperate with the others. They've been locked in this three-way stalemate for centuries. Admiral Kerrigan studied the tactical displays showing alien fleet positions. A plan was beginning to form in her mind. It was dangerous, but then again, the best plans usually were. Admiral called Lieutenant Torres from communications. We are receiving a priority transmission from the Zephyrian Command. Put it through. The crystal form of Fleet Commander Zekthos appeared on the main screen. His energy patterns showed nervousness. Admiral Kerrigan, we request a private discussion between our species. Oh? Kerrigan raised an eyebrow. And why would you want to exclude our other friends? Because we believe we can help each other. The Zephyrians are logical beings. We appreciate efficiency and strength. Your species has demonstrated both. Before Kerrigan could respond, another signal came through. This time, it was from the Hive Collective. Human Admiral clicked a Queen voice through her speaker. The Collective wishes to understand your coordination methods. We believe our species could work well together. The third call came from the Ethereals. Elder Mind Veltharis' psychic voice touched Kerrigan's mind gently. Admiral, we offer our wisdom and knowledge. Your species intrigues us, and we would learn more about your chaotic methods of thought. Admiral Kerrigan smiled. She had been a diplomat before she was a warrior, and she recognized opportunity when she saw it. Gentlemen, she said to her bridge crew, it appears that our new neighbors would like to chat. Commander Wells frowned. Admiral, each of them is trying to ally with us against the other two. I know. That could be dangerous. If we choose one ally, we make two enemies. True, but there is another option. What option? Admiral Kerrigan looked at the displays showing the three alien fleets. For hundreds of years, they have been locked in endless conflict, each preventing the others from achieving victory. They were powerful individually, but their constant fighting made them weak collectively. What if we do not choose sides? She said, what if we convince them all to work together? Wells stared at her. Admiral, they have been enemies for centuries. They hate each other. Right now, they hate each other more than they fear us, Kerrigan agreed. But what happens when they start to fear us more than they hate each other? You want to frighten them into cooperation? I want to show them that cooperation is more profitable than conflict. Admiral Kerrigan stood and smoothed her uniform. Lieutenant Torres, please send a message to all three fleet commanders. Tell them that Admiral Kerrigan requests the honor of their presence at a diplomatic summit. Where, Admiral? Here, on my ship. Let them come to us. Commander Wells looked nervous. Admiral, bringing all three alien leaders aboard our ship could be extremely dangerous. Yes, Admiral Kerrigan agreed. But so is staying here forever with no way home and limited supplies. Sometimes you have to take risks to win the game. What if they refuse to come? Admiral Kerrigan smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then, we remind them why diplomatic solutions are preferable to military ones. The diplomatic summit took place 3 days later aboard the U.S. Retribution. Admiral Kerrigan had chosen her ship's main conference room for the meeting. The room was designed to hold 50 people, but today it held only 7. Admiral Kerrigan and Commander Wells representing humanity. Fleet Commander Zekthos and War Commander Zekmane for the Zephyrians. Queen Voice Krixtel and Battlemind Vexkit for the Hive Collective. And Elder Mind Velthara for the Ethereals. The aliens had never been in the same room together without fighting. For centuries, Their meetings had been conducted through long-distance communications, with weapons pointed at each other across space. Being physically present on the same ship was uncomfortable for all of them. Admiral Kerrigan watched them carefully as they settled into their seats. The Zephyrians sat rigidly upright, their crystal bodies glowing with nervous energy. The Hive representatives clicked quietly to each other in their own language. The ethereal floated slightly above her chair, her cloud form shifting with barely controlled emotion. "Thank you all for coming," Admiral Kerrigan began. "I know this is unusual for your species. It is unprecedented," Fleet Commander Zikthos said stiffly. "We have agreed to this meeting only because of your demonstration of power. We do not fear you," Queen Voice Crickstel clicked, but her tone suggested otherwise. "The collective has faced many threats. Your minds are chaos," Elder Mind Valthara said softly. "But chaos sometimes produces wisdom. We are curious to hear your thoughts." Admiral Kerrigan nodded. "Before we begin, I would like to understand something. You have been fighting each other for hundreds of years. What exactly are you fighting about?" The three alien leaders looked at each other with obvious hostility. Fleet Commander Zikthos spoke first. "The Kepler sector contains 17 star systems with energy-rich planets," he said. "The Zephyrians require these energy sources for our civilization to survive. The other species prevent us from accessing what is rightfully ours." "Rightfully yours?" Queen Voice Crickstel's mandibles clicked angrily. "The collective was here first. These systems contain the biological materials we need for our reproduction cycles. Without them, our species will die out." "Both of you ignore the ancient claims," Elder Mind Valthara interjected. "The ethereals have maintained meditation chambers in this sector for 3,000 years. These worlds are sacred to us." Admiral Kerrigan listened to their arguments for several minutes. Finally, she held up her hand for silence. "Let me see if I understand this correctly," she said. "The Zephyrians need energy sources. The collective needs biological materials. The ethereals need sacred meditation sites. And all of these things are found in the same 17 star systems." "Correct," all three leaders said at once. "And rather than sharing these systems, you have spent centuries fighting over them." "Sharing is impossible," Zikthos declared. "Energy extraction interferes with biological processes. Biological harvesting destroys meditation environments," Valthara added. "Sacred sites prevent proper resource utilization." Crickstel clicked. Admiral Kerrigan looked at Commander Wells. He was trying not to smile. Like her, he could see the obvious solution that the aliens were missing. "May I ask what methods you use for energy extraction?" Admiral Kerrigan said. Zikthos looked confused. "We extract energy from planetary cores using direct thermal taps. And biological harvesting? We cultivate surface organisms in vast farming complexes," Crickstel explained. "And meditation? We require absolute silence and electromagnetic neutrality," Valthara said. "Any technological activity disrupts our psychic connections." Admiral Kerrigan nodded. "Commander Wells, would you please show them the displays?" Wells activated the conference room's holographic projector. A three-dimensional map of the Kepler sector appeared above the table, showing all 17 star systems in detail. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Kerrigan said, "you have been fighting over resources that could easily be shared." "Impossible," Zikthos protested. "Our technologies are incompatible." "Your current technologies are incompatible," Admiral Kerrigan corrected. "But technologies can be changed." She gestured to the display. "Commander Wells, show them the efficiency analysis." The holographic map changed, showing energy flows, biological productivity, and psychic resonance patterns throughout the sector. The aliens stared in fascination as the display revealed information they had never considered. "Your thermal taps are extremely inefficient," Admiral Kerrigan explained to the Zephyrians. You are extracting less than 12% of the available energy from each planet. With improved technology, you could extract 3 times more energy from just 5 planets than you currently get from all 17. Zichthos's S-crystal form pulsed with interest. Show us how. Your farming methods are equally wasteful, Admiral Kerrigan continued, turning to the hive representatives. You are using entire continents to grow organisms that could be cultivated in orbital facilities. Biological production in zero gravity is actually more efficient than surface farming. Crickstel leaned forward. The collective has never considered orbital cultivation. And your meditation sites, Admiral Kerrigan said to Velthara, could be established in deep space between the star systems. The psychic resonance would actually be stronger without planetary interference. You propose that we abandon our sacred worlds? I propose that you use better worlds. Our sensors show several locations in this sector with perfect psychic conditions. You have been limiting yourselves to planets when you could have entire regions of space. The 3 alien leaders looked at each other with expressions ranging from surprise to suspicion. Eldermind Velthara was the first to speak. You suggest that we could all have what we need without conflict. Not just what you need, Admiral Kerrigan said. More than you need. But it would require cooperation. Cooperation with them? Zadis gestured at the other aliens. They have been our enemies for centuries. And they will continue to be your enemies if you keep thinking of this as a zero-sum game, Admiral Kerrigan said. You have been so focused on fighting each other that you have never considered working together. Queen Voice Crickstel clicked thoughtfully. What do you gain from this arrangement, humans? What do you want from us? Admiral Kerrigan smiled. An excellent question. We want several things. First, we need materials to repair our ship and possibly build a way home. Second, we need allies. This sector is strategically important, and there are other powers in the galaxy that might want to take it from you. Other powers? Velthara's form flickered with concern. What other powers? Commander Wells activated another display. This one showed long-range sensor readings from the edge of the sector. Our deep space sensors have detected signs of at least 3 major civilizations beyond this region. One of them has been sending scout ships in this direction. The alien leaders studied the display with growing alarm. The sensor reading showed ship designs they did not recognize and energy signatures that suggested massive fleets. The Dominion, Zichthos whispered. We have heard rumors of them from traders. They are expansionist, Crickstel clicked nervously. The collective has encountered their scouts before. They take what they want. If they come here, Velthara said softly, our current defenses will not be enough to stop them. Exactly, Admiral Kerrigan said. Individually, your fleets are powerful. But you've been weakening each other with constant warfare. If a major external threat arrives, you will be easy targets. But together? Zichthos asked. Together, you would be formidable. Zephyrian energy weapons combined with hive coordination and ethereal psychic abilities would create a defense force that no one would want to challenge. The 3 leaders were quiet for a long moment, considering the implications. Finally, Eldermind Velthara spoke. You would help us achieve this cooperation? We would facilitate it, Admiral Kerrigan confirmed. Human diplomatic and tactical experience, combined with your technologies and resources, would benefit everyone. And if we refuse? War Commander Zekmain asked. Admiral Kerrigan's expression did not change. Then, you will continue to weaken each other until the Dominion arrives to pick up the pieces. We, meanwhile, will do whatever is necessary to protect ourselves and find a way home. The threat was subtle but clear. The humans could either be powerful allies or dangerous enemies. The choice was up to the aliens. Queen Voice Crixtel was the first to make a decision. The collective agrees to explore this cooperation. But we will need guarantees. What kind of guarantees? Admiral Kerrigan asked. Proof that the other species will honor their agreements. The Hive has been betrayed before. We are willing to discuss safeguards, Fleet Commander Zekthos said slowly. But the Zephyrians will not surrender our sovereignty. No one is asking you to surrender anything, Admiral Kerrigan said. We are asking you to consider that you might gain more by working together than by working apart. Elder Mind Velithara's psychic voice touched all their minds gently. The humans speak wisdom. Perhaps it is time to try a new path. Admiral Kerrigan stood. Excellent. Commander Wells will work with your representatives to begin drafting preliminary agreements. I suggest we start with small, joint projects to build trust. What kind of projects? Zekthos asked. Shared research, coordinated patrols, joint training exercises. 3 months after the diplomatic summit, the Kepler sector had transformed beyond recognition. Where once 3 separate fleets had patrolled their borders with weapons ready, now mixed squadrons worked together on joint missions. Zephyrian energy ships flew alongside Hive biological vessels and ethereal cloud forms, sharing information and coordinating their efforts. The first joint project had been a simple one, mapping the asteroid fields that marked the boundaries between their territories. For centuries, these regions had been no man's lands where the 3 species fought skirmishes and lost ships to hidden dangers. Now they worked together to chart safe passages and identify valuable resources. The results had surprised everyone. Working together, they had mapped more space in 1 month than any individual fleet had managed in the previous decade. They had also discovered rich mineral deposits and energy sources that none of them had known existed. Admiral Kerrigan stood on the observation deck of Nexus Station, watching the mixed fleets conduct their training exercises. The station had been built in neutral space as a symbol of cooperation, constructed with technology and materials contributed by all 4 species. Impressive progress, commented Commander Wells, joining her at the viewing port. Indeed, they learned quickly when they put their minds to it. Admiral Kerrigan watched a Zephyrian cruiser practice formation flying with a squadron of Hive fighters. 2 weeks ago, such a sight would have been impossible. Now it was routine. The efficiency gains have exceeded our projections, Wells continued. The Zephyrians are already extracting 40% more energy using our improved techniques. The Hive's orbital farms are producing twice their previous yields. The Ethereals have established meditation networks that cover the entire sector. And military capabilities? Significantly improved. The combined fleets can now coordinate actions across multiple star systems simultaneously. Response time to threats has decreased by 60%. Admiral Kerrigan nodded. The cooperation was working better than she had dared hope. But she knew that their first real test was coming soon. Any word from our long-range sensors? Commander Wells checked his tablet. The Dominion fleet is 3 weeks out, maybe less. 130 ships, including at least 12 heavy battlecruisers. They are not trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming. Standard intimidation tactics. Will it work? Admiral Kerrigan considered the question. 3 months ago, the answer would have been yes. The divided fleets of the Kepler sector would have been easy prey for a coordinated invasion. But things had changed. We will find out soon enough. Has Fleet Commander Zekthos agreed to the unified command structure? Yes, ma'am. All 3 species have accepted your tactical authority for the duration of the crisis. They are calling it the Kepler Defense Coalition. Admiral Kerrigan smiled. The name was diplomatic enough to avoid offending anyone while making it clear that they were no longer separate powers, but a unified force. A Bay communication signal interrupted her thoughts. The image of Elder Mind Velthara appeared on the wall display, her ethereal form shimmering with excitement. "Admiral Kerrigan," the psychic being said, "our deep meditation has revealed something important about the approaching fleet. What have you learned?" The Dominion ships carry fear weapons, devices designed to project terror into the minds of their enemies. This is how they have conquered so many worlds without major battles. They break their enemies' will to fight. Admiral Kerrigan felt a cold satisfaction. This was exactly the kind of intelligence that cooperation could provide. The ethereal psychic abilities had detected something that conventional sensors would have missed. "Can you defend against these weapons?" "With preparation, yes. But we will need the cooperation of all fleets. The Zephyrians' energy shields can block the fear projections if we guide them properly. The Hive's mental discipline can resist the effects if we coordinate their responses. And humans?" Velthara's form flickered with what might have been amusement. "Humans appear to be naturally resistant to fear weapons. Your chaotic minds cannot be easily manipulated." 3 weeks later, the Dominion fleet arrived. They came out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 130 ships arranged in a classic intimidation pattern. At the center of the formation was the massive dreadnought Eternal Glory, flagship of Dominion Admiral Korasis. The Dominion had used this approach successfully on dozens of worlds. Arrive in overwhelming force, activate the fear weapons to break enemy morale, then accept the inevitable surrender. It had worked for centuries. Admiral Korasis was confident that today would be no different. His intelligence reports describe the region torn by constant warfare between primitive species. Such divided enemies always collapse quickly when faced with superior force. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "we are detecting the local fleets. Readings show. This is strange." "What is strange?" "The enemy ships are not arranged in defensive positions, sir. They appear to be in some kind of mixed formation. I am reading Zephyrian, collective, and ethereal vessels operating together." Admiral Korasis frowned. His intelligence had not mentioned cooperation between the local species. "Perhaps they have formed a temporary alliance to face us." "It will not matter. Activate the fear projectors." The Dominion's most powerful weapons came online. Psychic transmitters designed to flood enemy minds with terror began broadcasting across the system. Every living being within their range should have been paralyzed with fear, unable to think or fight effectively. The response from the Kepler Defense Coalition was immediate and unexpected. Instead of fleeing in panic, the mixed fleet began to move with precision that surprised the Dominion forces. Zephyrian energy shields, guided by ethereal psychic direction, formed barriers that blocked the fear transmissions. Hive ships, their minds disciplined by ethereal meditation techniques, maintained perfect formation despite the psychic assault. And at the center of it all, the single human warship broadcast its own message. "This is Admiral Kerrigan of the Kepler Defense Coalition," came the transmission to the Dominion fleet. "You are trespassing in sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Korasis laughed. "One ship? They send one ship to threaten us?" "Sir," his tactical officer said nervously, "that one ship is reading energy levels that should not be possible. Increase fear projector output. Break their will." But the coalition fleet continued to advance. The mixed formations moved with coordination that the Dominion had never encountered. Zephyrian energy weapons, enhanced by hive targeting systems and guided by ethereal precognition, began to find their marks. Hive swarm fighters, protected by Zephyrian shields and directed by ethereal battle meditation, overwhelmed Dominion point defenses. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the mighty Dominion fleet was in full retreat. 30 ships had been destroyed, including 2 of their heavy battle cruisers. The rest fled toward the Galactic Rim, carrying news of their defeat. Admiral Caraxe's final transmission was bitter with disbelief. "This is impossible. You were supposed to be divided. Our intelligence said you were enemies." "Your intelligence was 3 months out of date," Admiral Kerrigan replied. "We got better." In the aftermath of the battle, representatives from all 4 species gathered again at Nexus Station. But this time, the mood was very different. They were no longer reluctant allies testing cooperation. They were partners who had fought together and won. "The Dominion will return," Fleet Commander Zentos observed. "They will bring more ships next time. Let them come." Queen Voice Crixtel clicked confidently. "The coalition grows stronger every day. Other species have already asked to join us. The victory will bring attention from across the galaxy," Elder Mind Velthara added. "We must be prepared for both threats and opportunities." Admiral Kerrigan nodded. "Which brings me to some news from home." "Commander Wells?" Wells activated a communication display. The image that appeared showed a fleet of human ships emerging from hyperspace. The first wave of Terran Republic colonization vessels arrived this morning. They bring supplies, reinforcements, and most importantly, improved FTL technology. The alien leaders looked at the display with interest. The human fleet was smaller than the Dominion force they had just defeated, but their ships were clearly more advanced than the UES Retribution. "How many humans are coming?" Zekthos asked. "The first wave includes 50,000 colonists and support personnel. More will follow if conditions are favorable." "And conditions?" Velthara inquired. Admiral Kerrigan smiled. "I believe they could not be better. Humanity is offering full membership in the coalition to any species that desires it. We bring technology, strategic knowledge, and a different way of looking at problems. In return, we ask only for the chance to build something better than what came before. The coalition will become more than just a defense pact," Crixtel realized. "You speak of a new form of civilization." "Exactly. 4 species working together have already achieved more than any of us could accomplish alone. Imagine what we might accomplish with 40 species. Or 400. The representatives looked at each other, then back at Admiral Kerrigan. For centuries, each of their civilizations had been limited by their own perspectives, their own technologies, their own fears.